Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Stardust Discovery. On today's episode, I would like us to talk about something exciting that is about to happen. And this is it's been a long time coming, really. Everyone has been getting ready, preparing, and myself. And I'm happy that we are a few weeks away to this major event. And during the course of today's video, I will be talking about why this is a major event. And so today's topic will be eclipse. And not just eclipses, it's going to be solar eclipse. So there are different types of eclipse as we'll be getting to know today, but I will be focusing on the solar eclipse. Okay, so if this is your first time joining this channel, or listening to any of our videos, you're welcome, you're welcome. Here we discuss everything science, everything physics, trying to make sense of them in a layman's language. So if you have ever wondered why things happen the way they are, why you experience some certain things in your environment and you want to understand better, then this channel is for you. If you happen to be in high school or secondary school and you're preparing for your certificate examination, we also have amazing content that would help you to ace your exams. So this might be a good call to invite your friends, share the link to the video, let them subscribe so that whenever we release any new video, they will be the first to get to know about. So today, I'm really excited with this topic. It's one of those things that made me even get interested in astronomy in the first place. Because back home, we experience eclipse, and there are just a lot of myths around it that we just tend to believe those myths instead of trying to understand why they happen. And I'm happy that eventually my curious mind finally found the answers, and I'm going to be sharing those answers to you as well. Maybe you're as curious as me, but you still never got the answers. So maybe you know, but just at the very final level, but it's still fine. The whole idea is to help us understand what's happening, and it will enable us appreciate it more when they happen. And hopefully we get to understand the environment better. So that's the whole essence of this channel. And we'll also have other things we talk about, like career path, especially in STEM. A lot of things around career in STEM. We'll be bringing some of those in the coming weeks. But for today, let's get into solar eclipse. I'm sure some of you are already wondering, what is even an eclipse? What is she talking about? So maybe we should take a step back and let's talk about eclipse. Okay, so an eclipse is actually an astronomical event that happens every now and then, and the only way we know they happen is when we experience some of their effects, like blocking of the light. So if you are supposed to experience sunlight in the afternoon, for example, and all of a sudden when it's not like it's about to rain or some of the natural weather related events happening, and then you notice that the sun blacks out, not entirely but to some extent, and it's not being covered by the cloud or any of those weather related things. So when I mean weather related things, I mean things that happen as a result of the earth. Because we're on earth, there are the earth weather happens to us, but there are things away from the earth weather. So when you get into outside of the earth, which is outer space, there are events also happening. So this is one of those events. Then there are two major ones, two types. We have the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. So the solar eclipse, which is one of the ones I will be focusing on today, is the event that happens when we have this perfect alignment of the sun, moon, and earth system. So, but in this case, we have the moon in between the sun and the earth. So when you have that type of alignment, they have to be perfectly in line for this eclipse to happen. So when you have that alignment, the effect of blocking of light from the sun, which we do experience on Earth, is what we call the solar eclipse. However, for the lunar eclipse or the eclipse of the moon, in this case, we expect the Earth in between the sun and the moon. So it's still same three-body system, but in this case, we have the Earth in between the sun and the moon. So what is happening for the lunar eclipse is that the shadow of the Earth is cast on the moon. So, however, because we are not in the moon to experience what's happening, we still see what's going on a little bit by looking at the moon during lunar eclipse. What we see is a reddish moon. So people call it blood moon, but it's just a bit of the color. Okay. So, but what's happening is that the moon is in the middle of the shadow where you will experience the total lunar eclipse. So that's why we see that blondish moon. You only see that when the moon is white at the umbra region where the totality is supposed to happen. So the umbral region of the shadow of the Earth. So that point you notice that the moon is a bit bloody. So we know that lunar eclipse is happening and it's best viewed at night. Okay. So that's for lunar eclipse, and that's not what we were talking about today. So getting back to solar eclipse, why am I excited about this? Because we've been planning for this, and especially where I am right now in Toronto, and all the southern Ontario cities are all going to be experiencing either the partial one or the total one, but for the most part, we'll be experiencing the total solar eclipse. So, and I would like to lead us to understand a little bit what makes this a spectacular event. Okay, so let's take a step back into this three-body system I talked about. So I mentioned that the sun, the moon, and the Earth has to be in a certain alignment for the eclipse to happen. And for the solar eclipse, I've mentioned specifically that the moon has to be in the middle of this alignment. Now, when I mean in the middle, it doesn't necessarily mean by distance it should be equally like in their middle. No. So I meant in between the sun and the Earth. Okay, so we all know that the moon is the satellite of the Earth. It's going around the Earth as the Earth is also going around the sun. So there is all of these movements happening that day, okay, and even that time. So there is something different in these two rotations. So the Earth is rotating around the sun, revolving around the sun in a somewhat flat orbit. However, the moon that is rotating around the Earth is not necessarily in that kind of flat orbit. So this makes it difficult for us to experience that alignment every time. So you can imagine that assuming there is a flat orbit, we should experience this eclipse every time the moon makes a complete cycle, which is really every month. The moon completes this cycle every month, at least once. So why are we not experiencing this eclipse every month? Okay, so that's part of why it's interesting. So there is also something called the phases of the moon. I don't know if some of you are already aware about the different ways the moon appear. Those are the phases of the moon. Remember, the moon does not have its own light. It's reflecting light from the sun. So when you see a part of the moon lighted, it's a different type of phase. So different type of the lighted moon demonstrates the different phases of the moon. So sometimes we see a crescent moon and we say, okay, this is, crescent phase of the moon. We have the gibbous phase. All of these are just different parts of the moon that is lighted, giving off a different shape that we see, and those represent the different phases of the moon. There is a time where it's not giving off light at all, and what that means is that we are facing the part of the moon that is not facing the sun at all, or that is not getting the reflection of the sun at all. So now that particular phase is the phase where the solar eclipse can occur, because the other side of the moon will be lighted by the sun, and then it's possible for eclipse to happen, which is, that the shadow of that moon is now casted on the earth. That's when eclipse happens. But then it doesn't happen as frequent as we see the new moon. So we see the new moon almost every month, but we don't see this solar eclipse every month. And I'm going to talk about why. But I just wanted us to understand that, alignment, the three body system, and how they work. Now, let's step back a bit to the different types of solar eclipses. Actually, what you see, during a solar eclipse is the moon covering the sun, such that the dark part you see is really the moon, because it blocks off the light from the sun entirely, such that you are able to see even the different flares coming out from the sun and the outer atmosphere of the sun, called the corona. Okay, so but there are, there is a way that moon would cover the sun such that it forms a ring. So it forms a bit of a ring at the outer part, that which we call the annular eclipse. So that could also be seen if an eclipse happens. So sometimes what we have is an annular eclipse, sometimes what we have is a total eclipse, and every time any of this is happening, some parts of the region will be experiencing a partial eclipse. So what happens for partial eclipse is that it's not all of the light that is covered. So a part of that sunlight is covered. So the people in the region where the part is covered will experience a partial eclipse. So this is really what happens. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. However, let's get back to what we'll be experiencing. So we'll be experiencing total eclipse in this part of the world, and partial eclipse as well for the most part. So why is this solar eclipse rare? So I've talked about the difference in the orbit alignment of the moon to the earth compared to the earth to the sun. So the earth is moving at a flat orbit with the sun, but the moon is moving at an angle of 5 degrees. So the angle of 5 degrees orbit to the earth makes it really, really hard for that perfect alignment to happen. So what that means is that sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, with respect to the sun and the earth. So it's really, really hard to get it at a perfect middle or whatever position where they are in a straight line, which is what we need to achieve for eclipse to happen, right? So this is one major reason why we are not able to see the eclipse every month. This is the reason why it's rare. Now, there are other reasons. One of them is that even when this happens, right, it could cast that shadow. Remember that when that alignment is achieved, the sun will cause the shadow of the moon to be cast on earth, and the region where that shadow falls on would experience this total eclipse. Now, the region where it falls on most time, is not one place. Remember, the earth is moving, so because the earth is rotating, that shadow also will seem to be moving. So it sweeps across cities and towns while that is happening. Now, it's possible for this to happen in the middle of the ocean, and what that means is that no one would experience it. Now, it didn't mean it didn't happen. It's just that there was no human being where it happened to have experienced it. Now, that brings down the probability of seeing an eclipse. even lower. So there is the angle of inclination playing a role to bring down the probability. There is the fact that more than 50% of the earth is water. So, and the eclipse would, fall on any of those water bodies and you will not see it. So that's another huge point. All right. And remember, we are also looking at per city, per ton. Right. So it means even though you're not seeing an eclipse, it doesn't mean someone in Asia is not going to see it. Right. So if you remain in a particular location for a long time, I guess the chances of you seeing the eclipse also continues to reduce because you only see it per region. It's able to happen just for the region where that shadow sweeps for the time the alignment was achieved. Okay, I hope I have been able to at least help you understand why this is really a one-in-a-lifetime event, because of all of these things that I've talked about. And so finally, we are about to experience one. So we happen to see this because it's going to happen close to where there will be human beings. I mean, we will be here, so we will see it. Even though it might start off from some part of the ocean, like you can see in this video, it will start off from this, some part of this ocean, and then it begins to get into landmass area, and then it will swim through some parts, of the US, and then some part of Canada, especially the southern part, through Quebec, and then Newfoundland, and then that will be it. Okay, so I am really excited about this, and it's gonna be happening on April 8th of April 2024, which is just a few weeks away, 2 weeks or so. Okay, now in terms of numbers, how often does this happen? Like, let's make this make sense. How often does this happen in terms of numbers? So we are in 2024. When was the last time an eclipse happened? Now this is a bit of a difficult question because eclipses happen in different parts of the world at different times, right? So, but if I now narrow this question down to when was the last time it happened in Canada, it brings it down. Now, if I want to ask when was the last time it happened in Ontario, now it continues to narrow down the probability as you narrow down to town, city, and to smaller regions. Okay, so if I think about when this happened in Toronto, that's even getting much narrower. So it turns out that the last total eclipse, remember, it could be partial, it could be total, so these things differ. So if you're talking about total eclipse, the last one in Toronto happened in 1925. That's over a century, or about a century now, which is crazy, right? And even Toronto is not necessarily gonna experience the totality yet. Gonna be like 99%, not even like 100% covered, right? So, well, let's just imagine we are 100%, but it's really near a century, even if that is the case, okay? And we would expect to see another one in that's a long time ago. That's a long time coming. Such a long time. 2144. That is a long time. For Toronto, that's a long time. But if you want to consider Ontario, for example, Ontario is the province where Toronto belongs. So in Ontario, it should be much easier to see, at least in one of the cities in Ontario. Okay, so the last time in Ontario was in 1979, and we are having it again this year, and the next one will be like in 2099. That's still fair enough, okay? 2099 is still close enough. So like I said, as you increase the region, as you increase the area that will be covered, then the higher chance you will, you will see the eclipse even faster. So yeah, so that's just a bit of the figures. I hope that gives you a sense of how less common this is. But in reality, how often do you think an eclipse is happening? Because I mentioned that it could happen, but then just ends up falling into the ocean and no one gets to witness it except the fishes, of course. But like, assuming we are to see this all the time, how often does it happen? So it turns out that, the typical eclipse could be happening every 18 months, actually. Every 18 months. It could be happening every 18 months. So I guess maybe you could go live in the waters for some time to see it. But then it depends. And this could be predicted. Like there are actual times and dates for a particular region where it will happen. So I think it's something that could be planned. So once people plan it out and go on a cruise somewhere, you're sure it's gonna happen, and just for the fun of it and experience the eclipse. So yeah, depending on where you are at a particular time, you could experience the eclipse. So that is it. As the Earth rotates, the moon's shadow on Earth travels from west to east, and the path this creates is the area where the eclipse will happen. So, and it's quite a small amount. Remember, the moon is small compared to the Earth, and that small region, is really small. And this is again why it's looking like it doesn't happen as often as we would expect. Not that it doesn't happen, it's just that it covers a small region, and we have to wait again for the next alignment for another region to really experience it. So yeah, it's all it all gets really narrow that way. But yeah, we are excited about it. But before we go on, I would like to pause a bit and help us to think about why eclipses are significant. So at the beginning of this, I was trying to link how my childhood experience of eclipse is one of the reasons why I loved astronomy, because I never understood what was happening. All that I heard were the myths around it. So our parents, which didn't know any better, and even our forefathers probably passed it down to them and to everybody else. So people just have this idea. So when you ask what's going on or what's happening, they tell you what they know. So my impression, my mindset about eclipses then was that, the gods are fighting, they are having some issues with humans, and they are angry at humans, and maybe who knows what is about to happen. Maybe the wrath of the gods is about to descend upon human, and we are going to perish or something like that. So people always look at eclipse as a terrifying event, and that's so sad. Like, if I have that mentality all this while, I won't be excited this way. But anyway, somehow those understanding, those myths shaped our culture. It shaped who we are and the way we relate to things. I actually remember that some people, take the sun as goddess. Like, some people worship the sun, and that is what they believe, and it works for them. So the eclipse is a significant event for people like that, right? So I'm just trying to bring our attention to the fact that beyond science, this event is also very significant to some people. Almost different parts of the world has different attachment to eclipses. It might not be the same explanation, it might not be the same definition, but whatever it means to them, this period, whenever the eclipse is happening, we mean a very special time in their lives. A typical example is the indigenous people of Canada. I know, so because I have a professor who is an indigenous person and an incredible human, I have had to repeat her for a few times, and I enjoy the myths they have around some astronomical event, and the eclipse is one of them. One thing I remember about her story of how the indigenous people relate to eclipse is that for them it's a peace event. Like, it's a peace event. So it's like there was a marriage between the sun and the earth, and the moon was the offspring, and maybe there was an issue in between, in the marriage. So the eclipse is a time to reunite, is a time to make peace, and that event signifies peace for this community. And they upheld it so well. In fact, I think I don't know if it's real, but like, they signed a peace treaty also on an eclipse day, which is very, very significant. So I think it's worth reflecting on how, your people, whoever you are, wherever you are, you could ask, what are, the myths? What do we hold dear concerning eclipse? And that will give you some hints about your people and the different cultures that exist. Maybe you never knew, and stories, or maybe some history as well. Okay, I will put the link in the description box for the story about the indigenous people of Canada and their, relation and interaction with the eclipse. How we put the link, especially the interview with Professor Laurie. Hopefully we could reflect on those in this season, especially for those that live in Canada and environs. It will be good to acknowledge the land where, the eclipse is happening, in this time at least. All right. So let's get into what we should expect on April 8th. April 8th, 2024. It's around the corner, and a lot of things have been happening in the city. Even for this video, I have to connect with the Discover the Universe materials to make it easy for people, as I'm talking about, because I think this is so important that we have an understanding of what to expect. So thanks to Discover Universe, is an organization, and also the Lab Institute as well, that have been running a couple of workshops around the city, helping people to be well prepared for the eclipse, especially around the safety measures and debunking all the lies. There has been a lot going on in the media. If there is anything I would like to say, that there is no cause for alarm. Eclipse is not a damaging event. There is nothing wrong going on, so there is nothing to be afraid about. There is nothing to be afraid of. If anything, we should enjoy this moment, which is a one-time event of a lifetime that you don't know the next time you're going to experience it. So just have fun enjoying the eclipse, as opposed to fear. There is nothing to fear around this. Okay, so I just want to acknowledge Discover Universe, acknowledge Dunlap Institute, as we get into this segment that I'm going to be talking about next. So I have this, it's actually a video from YouTube. I got this material from the Lab Institute as well, but I think it's useful just to help people know what to expect. So this happened somewhere in Oregon, I think, in 2017. This video, if you look at it, you'll see how excited the people are, especially the kids, when the eclipse was about to happen, especially when it gets to totality. So normally eclipse takes like 2 hours each. So it starts with when the covering is happening slowly. The moon is covering the sun slowly until it covers it entirely. but then that lasts for only a minute or so, and then it begins to go away until it's entirely separated, and then we have the sun back. So that whole thing takes like 2 hours, and I will also be talking about the safety measures around these different times. But just this video is very useful just to get a sense of what you should expect if you happen to be in any of these cities that I've talked about, in the Southern Ontario region, Quebec, and Newfoundland, at least for Canada. And then you also want to look into the timing, because it's not going to happen at the same time. As you can see from the previous video, that moon shadow is moving, so that means it will cross different city at different times. So you need to make sure you know the time it will be happening at your city. So I have some list of time here, but maybe I didn't include your city, but that's fine. I'm sure Google has the details, so you can just check times and dates. It's a website that helps you to find some of this information. So I will leave the link in the description box as well. Use time and date to find the time it will be happening at your location. Okay, so yeah, I've mentioned before that in Toronto it's going to be a partial eclipse. So do not forget that it's not the same as total eclipse. Like I will be talking about the safety measures in a bit. You need to adhere to the safety measures. If you are in Toronto or anywhere that is not fully covered, like you can see on this image showing the path that is going to experience total versus the path that will experience total partial. So if your city does not fall under the total, then you need to observe the safety measures all throughout the time. So yeah, I guess this is a good way to even dive into the safety measures that I'm talking about. All right. So one thing is that I guess this is why it's a bit controversial because the sun is involved, right? So because the sun is such a luminous object, you shouldn't look at it with your naked eye for any reason, at any time, not just during the eclipse. At any time at all, you should never look at the sun directly with your naked eye. So that's the general rule of thumb. So we are going to be having this eclipse. That does not mean we should damage our eyes, okay? So this is why I'm going to be talking about different ways and measures to, keep in mind while watching the eclipse. So one thing is that there are some filters that have been used to create stuff like this. So this is a solar eclipse glasses that you could just put on top of your glass or just with your eye, and you could use it to look at the sun. Let me keep this. This is so useful, very useful. It just takes away most of the light from the sun so that it becomes safe for you to look at the sun with this. All right. So this is one method, and it's the easiest method. If you are able to buy or get a free eclipse glasses, that will be very useful. If you are going to experience the eclipse, whether the full or the partial eclipse. Okay. Then there are other methods that you can use. If you happen to have access to a telescope with a filter, you can actually look at the sun, but it has to have that filter. Without the filter, please don't. All right. The other thing is the pinhole. So you can create a pinhole. Just create a hole of any shape. Actually, it's best to avoid circular shape so that you know when you are finding the object. But the whole idea is that you create this hole, and instead of looking up, you look through the hole. You look to the shadow that the light from the sun that is passing through the hole is creating on the screen or on the ground. So anything, like you can cast that light on anywhere, but the ground is like the easiest thing. So you could just adjust the length between the ground. If you are casting that shadow to the ground, you can adjust the length between the ground and the hole you created. Now that length is the focal length. There is actually a formula, I'll put it on the screen right now. The formula you can use to estimate what that length will be. It depends on the size of the hole you created. Okay, with that, you don't need to look up, you just look down and you can still experience the eclipse safely. So that's one other method. I've given 3 methods right now. So, but the easiest one is this. So try to see if you can get an eclipse glasses, and then you can use it even after the eclipse for other things. And then I would highlight that if you are going to be having the partial eclipse, you need to wear this all through the time. You should not take it out to look at the sun. Only people that will be experiencing total eclipse can look through with this for the first half hour before the totality happens. Then you can take it out when it's fully covered. When the sun is fully covered, you can take this out just for 1 minute or so. Then you should be quick to put it down back before it begins to separate. So it's very important to guard your eyes. That's the whole idea. Guard your eyes. And one thing to keep in mind is to always look away from the sun when you are putting it on before you look. So do not look and then put it on. No. Try to look away, put it on, then look. And taking it out again, look away and then take it out. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, all of this is about safety. Really, you need to protect your eyes. You need to protect your eyes. Okay, so I've been talking about safety. Is there something I'm leaving out? Yeah, if you have kids, help them to make sure that your eyes are protected by using the pinhole thing. If you cannot get an eclipse glasses, I think it's easy to get any hole. Just create a hole, maybe with your cereal pack, the cereal pack or anything at all. Really, just create a hole and use this equation I have shown on the screen to obtain the focal length that you need to get the exact thing happening up as well on the ground, and you'll still enjoy the eclipse, trust me. So this is really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm just imagining if there is anything else that I've not mentioned in terms of safety. So please, you need to have your eclipse on if you are going to be experiencing partial eclipse all through. I would advise you begin now to try out your eclipse glasses even before the eclipse, just to see the sun. There are things to see, like sunspots. There are these dark patches on the sun surface, which are regions of extreme magnetism. Just normal magnetism actually on the sun. They happen in pairs and they show us dark spots when you are looking through. So you can really see those things on a normal day. If they are there, sometimes they are not there. And it's good. You can actually track them because they are periodic. You can track them. So that's something you can do with your glasses even when eclipse is not happening. You can keep it for the next eclipse as well. That's one thing for sure. And make sure that before you use it, you inspect to make sure it's not scratched. It shouldn't be scratched, otherwise light can pass through to get to your eyes. So make sure you keep it safe somewhere that it wouldn't get scratched. All right. And now I remember the phone camera. So your phone camera should not be used to take a picture of the sun directly. It might be useful to include the filter this way, before you take the picture. include the filter before you take the picture. So yeah, so I think those should be good enough safety rules, and I'm happy to answer any question in the comments if you have one. Yeah, feel free to ask me a question directly, especially about the safety measures, because it's very important to us that you are safe while chasing the shadows. It's important you are safe while chasing the shadows. All right, I will be wrapping it up here. Hopefully we have a very bright day that is not cloudy, so that we experience the eclipse as it should and enjoy it. If it happens that it was cloudy, that is cloudy that day and you are not able to experience it, I'm sure that will be live streamed in some places. I know some people like the Dunlap Institute are going to be hosting a live stream of the events on their YouTube page, so you can also check out Dunlap Institute on YouTube that day. I'm sure a couple of other places like times and dates, I'm sure they will be having a live stream as well. So yeah, check out on YouTube and maybe you might still get a test of the eclipse from there. All right. Wow, it's been a long one. I hope you remember all we talked about today. We are expecting solar eclipse, and a solar eclipse is the event that happens where a part of all of the sun from the light is covered by any of the solar celestial body. In this case, it's covered by the moon. Okay, and this only happens when there is that perfect alignment between the sun, the moon, and the earth. This is what the solar eclipse is about. This is what happens, and we are excited that it's going to be happening in this part of the world on April 8th, and we are working towards making sure we enjoy and make it a memorable one, while keeping in mind the safety measures around looking at the sun so that we do not damage our eyes. Okay, so we'll end it here, and maybe next time I should talk about the lunar eclipse. So, but today we just focus on solar eclipse. Another day we'll focus on lunar eclipse. And do not forget to subscribe to Stardust Discovery, and like this video if you enjoy it. Share with other people, let people get to know and also get ready and prepared about the coming eclipse. All right, take care, and I will see you in our next one. Bye.